Welcome to eDiscovery Leaders Live, where I get a chance to chat with luminaries in eDiscovery and related areas. This broadcast is sponsored by Reveal-Brainspace, the industry's leading AI eDiscovery platform. Don't forget to subscribe to watch me, George Socha, weekly with leaders in eDiscovery. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome to eDiscovery Leaders Live, hosted by ACEDS and sponsored by Reveal. I am George Socha. I head up brand awareness at Reveal. On each episode of eDiscovery Leaders Live, I get the chance to chat with luminaries in eDiscovery and related areas. Past episodes are available on the Reveal website. Go to revealdata.com, select resources, then select eDiscovery Leaders Live. My guest this week is Jason Bentley. Jason is a senior sales manager at K2 Discovery. Jason, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Glad to have you here with us. So before we get to the substance of the discussion, if you will, today, I would like to have you introduce yourself in some greater detail. Tell them a bit about who you are, how you got to what you do, and what it is you do and where you do it.
Sure thing. So I'm Jason Bentley. I work with K2 Discovery, and I started in the industry in the late 90s, actually, and kind of in the paper days and in the beginning of the e-discovery business, and eventually became part of a company that created a product, from the ground up, and just learned an immense amount. Worked with some great people over the time. And eventually became a part of Xerox, and then now I'm with K2 Discovery. And really what I'm doing here is working on consulting with our clients about how to more efficiently manage their product or their projects.
And in order to do that, of course, they need to use not only their wits and their acumen, their experience and their skill, but technology. What are they doing with the tools available to them? What do your folks do and you do with them?
Sure. Well, here at K2, we use a multitude of tools. One of the ones that I focus on the most is the Reveal 11 version. And a lot of our cases are, or a lot of my current cases anyways, are construction defect type cases. And so we're utilizing, our workflows. We'll design our own workflows to help our clients get to the, get to the heart of the case very, very quickly. So we'll use all the different prefabricated AI models. We will use supervised learning, where we're creating issue codes and letting the system guide them through, what they need to look at next, right? So if they're looking at contract documents, we want to group those together so that they can have the mind of being in their contract mind and go through all of them at once. And what we find is it's a very effective way for our clients to kind of get their handle on the case very early on and make the important decisions that are often needed to be made early on. So
different types of cases have their different vagaries and peculiarities. And a products liability case is very different from a contract dispute, and those are very different from, as you mentioned, construction defects. For those people who don't do construction defect litigation, what are some of the unusual or challenging aspects to that type of work?
Well, there are a lot. So what I find is at the onset of a case, they're often, contract defect are often voluminous cases, lots of data, lots of images, lots of contracts because of all the subcontractors, change orders, right? Imagine building a building and all of the different things that occur along the way. So the way we help and the way we use Reveal to help our clients is we'll use what you have as pre kind of fabricated AI models. I'll give you an example of contracts, right? So contracts, oftentimes the first thing a paralegal will ask me is, the attorney asked me to get all of the contracts together. I need to review them between all of the subcontractors. And in the old days, you had to iterate through the documents, go look for, use a key term to find or hopefully find all of the contracts, which, doesn't necessarily work. So we use the contract AI to basically the algorithm goes through all of the text, groups all of the contracts together, and we're able to present those contracts directly to the paralegal. She can go through them in a very, effective way. And it saves a lot of time. Another example that we use is document management. So change orders. So once a they're often pretty consistent forms, and so the system will go through and say, okay, here are all of the documents that are likely change orders. So that's another thing that paralegals always ask us is, hey, I need to find all the change orders. I need to find the pricing and the fees. So there's another AI prefab model that does pricing and fees. So we'll use each of those prefab models to group those types of documents together, present them to the attorneys or paralegals that are going to be reviewing it and organizing it. And really what it does is it saves them, weeks and weeks of time often because they're not iterating through documents one after another in a linear fashion.
So for people who are not familiar with using that type of pre-built model, what does that experience look like?
Well, the experience looks like, after we've captured the data for the case, from each of the subcontractors and we get it in, we process it into the system. It's really hands off from the client. A lot of this is done through the training of the AI model in previous cases. So what happens is the data comes in, and then you apply a model, through the interface in Reveal to that set of data, and then the results are going to give you a listing of documents that are likely part of that AI scope. So. So it's a pretty simple process. It takes time for us to set that up and to kind of execute that work. But once it's executed, it gets organized into folders or however the attorneys like to see it. So oftentimes from that stage, we will have a meeting with the attorneys that are involved, learn about the issues of the case. Understand what they're looking for, and then we'll apply the models that make the most sense to that, group it together, and have them look at them. And then as they continue to find important facts in the case via the data that they look at, we continue to kind of build the AI models in a different manner, called supervised learning. And in supervised learning, we're kind of taking it to another level because it's how you get into the specifics of that particular matter. So I'd be happy
before we go.
Yeah.
Before we go further into the supervised learning, with the AI models, how lengthy a process that in terms of time?
Well, it depends on the data size, of course. The algorithm has to iterate through all of the text of a document and all the metadata and do it. So, I find it to be, getting data in, a couple 100 gigabytes might take a day and a half maybe to get it to the point where we're running the AI models. And then the AI models could run anywhere from, several hours to overnight, but then it's up and ready to go at that point. Very little massaging from us, but there's a lot of massaging that comes after they learn about the data because we can fine tune it from that point.
So compared to a more traditional approach, quite quick. Not instantaneous yet, but still much quicker.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I mean, I really believe, I've worked on hundreds of these types of matters, and without this technology, I mean, you don't get to the point where you have all of the contracts looked at by the attorney, early on in a case. It could be weeks before that happens, weeks. So the efficiencies that are gained from the AI models on just the onset of the case, the prefabbed ones that we're not kind of fine tuning, it speeds things up for the legal teams by many weeks. So.
And I hear a distinction that you're drawing. There are the prefab models that you use as they are, Then there are models that you either build yourself or start with a prefab model and then fine tune it yourself, right?
That's correct. Yes. Yeah. So often
And
we'll, meet with the attorneys. We'll understand what they're looking for. It could be, window seals in the high rise, right? It could be flooring in the buildings. It could be all, multiple issues in one particular matter. And so what we do is we analyze, discuss, learn about the case from the legal team. And then what we do is we set up, common term in our industry, issue codes, categorization. So we'll set up kind of groups that different, issues might fit within. And then as the attorneys review the documents or the paralegals review the documents, they're going to tag these documents that have to do with either categories or specific issues. And as they do that, the more that they code and the more that they say, hey, this is an issue with flooring, this is not an issue with flooring, as that continues to grow in the matter, it really fine tunes the model to where now it's going to go and look for those documents that are tagged in that manner and find other ones and group them together. So then, you're easily and efficiently tagging documents having to do with flooring and looking them all together. Or if it's a roofing aspect, you'll get to that part. And it's grouped together. So it improves the speed of the review. It improves the accuracy of the review. And it helps them make decisions about the case. Hey, do we need to settle? Do we need to, continue on towards trial? It makes them, save their clients money and get more matters from that client because of the efficiency and the accuracy in which they do their work compared to, linear review in the past, or even some lesser AI models out there. It's just, I found it, just to be so helpful. And our clients get so excited because they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I could get all of these together at once and look at them all. So it's been pretty amazing.
so AI models and their various permutations. That's one arrow in your quiver. Another you mentioned was supervised learning. Tell us more about what you do with that.
Well, yeah, that's where we take the issue codes. We'll create the issues in the case, and so that they can be tagged. Mm-hmm. And once they're tagged, the system will go and learn all of the other documents that are similar to the ones that you have tagged in such a manner. So that really just helps prioritize the review and helps you look at similar type documents in single settings versus having to, see a roofing document and then a flooring document or drawings, right? You want it, like, another really effective way is, as they're marking through the documents, you'll have a tag of, floor plans and different types of drawings. And so we're able to go and find other drawings and get them together. So that's kind of the supervised learning. And then as they go through tagging documents, it just gets better and better and better at finding exactly what they're looking for. So it helps you get to the needle in the haystack. And
as you're describing this, it sounds as if it's not a situation where there is a single issue code. And then the reviewers use that, go through, and then you need to start over again with another issue code. It sounds like you can have multiple issue codes in there, all training models.
Yes, that's correct. And so you could have things that are marked, an issue code of some type of contract problem, some kind of flooring problem, and you could have all of that in one document because it's a comprehensive document about multiple issues. And so there are certain documents that may be responsive to 3, 4, 10 issues at a time. And it will also go out and find documents that are similar to that, right? Things that have multiple issues within it as well. And that's without it's going out and finding that without a person looking at it. And the way we take advantage of that is it prioritizes. We'll say, hey, here's a whole bunch of documents that are very similar to this, multi-issue document. You may want to look at these. And so we put those in line to the attorneys. They're not out hunting and pecking. So a lot of times their questions or requests are answered before they even have time to ask them because we're kind of feeding them those documents that we recognize as important.
This then is not like the early days of TAR where you needed to have a substantial control set,
That's
build
true.
that, fine tune that, and then deploy that. This
Right, and
sounds
have
much more
somebody
nimble.
sample thousands of documents, right, and then
Mhm.
retrain it and over and over and over. And it could take weeks to get through that process, right, in a large matter. With here, it begins in the beginning. You need anywhere between 4 and 10 documents, depending on how you set it up, that need to be coded with a certain issue tag. So if you have multiple issue tags in one palette, and you connect, this document to this particular issue, in the back end, it's saying, hey, this document is this issue, but it's not any of those other issues. So it's going to go find documents at that point that are simply part of that issue. And as you iterate and add more documents to the case and tag them with different issue codes, it's going to do the same for those. And it's also going to take into account when a document has multiple issues, it's going to go find, hey, here are multifaceted documents, right? There's a lot of information in these with answering or showing the different issues. So
your
again, that's
client,
something that is trained upon, as you go through the matter, right? So as the attorneys mark documents, the system learns more about those documents and is able to, offer, more information to the user.
your clients are law firms, corporations, government, all three?
All three. A lot of my current clients are law firms, but as a company, K2, we do all kinds of investigations. Whether it's FCPA to criminal to whatever it may be, and then we work with some companies directly, some corporations directly, where we handle all of their litigation and e-discovery needs. And then there's law firms that we work with every day that from large 1,000-person firms down to very small ones. And I feel as though we are bringing, a playing field and evening a playing field to some of the smaller firms. So I focus a lot on mid-sized firms, and I feel like we bring such tremendous value to them. Many of those mid-sized firms have had, years of kind of not being able to afford certain tools, right? Relativity is expensive, and they're not really able to handle their cases in the same way that some of the larger firms and larger corporate clients are able to afford. So I think with Reveal, we're kind of bringing light to these firms, saying, hey, you have the ability to do this at a very affordable rate, things that your clients can afford, and they get a huge amount of advantage from it. So they're taking monumental leaps, I think, in the industry in the last couple of years compared to maybe what they faced in the past.
With clients you work with regularly, I am sure they're familiar with the process you use with these tools. For a client that's new, say a medium to small size law firm that you haven't worked with before, how do you help them better understand what this process is going to be like, and then help them through the experience?
Sure. So, it usually begins with demonstrating kind of the product to them. And so what we'll do is we'll often know the types of cases that they work on, whether it's construction defect, PI, whatever it may be, and understand what their needs are, what they're facing. And then we'll demonstrate the pieces of the project or of Reveal that really would add tremendous value to them. So, I'll give you one example is like image labeling. That's something that I find a lot of our clients are just amazed by, right? So whether it's a construction case or any other case that is heavy image, it could be something at a power plant, right, where they were taking tons of photos of the different pieces of equipment. Something that really wows people and helps us, make them become more efficient is image labeling. So what that is when there's basically an AI algorithm that's going to read the content of a picture, and it's going to be trained on what is in that picture. So we'll have pictures, using construction defect where it's piping with a truck in the background, a tree in the background, a staircase that is being framed, and literally the image will be labeled with all of those different pieces. So if you can imagine having, 5,000 images that you've got to look through, and someone had maybe seen one image and they're all named, CA001, CA002. So you can't really get anything from it by just looking at it on a computer without peering at the photo in the past. Now you have the image label that tells you exactly what's in it, and what amazes the clients is how accurate it is and how much time it saves them, because countless amount of times I've been told, I can't find this photo. I've been looking through it, Jason, I've got 5,000. I'm just going through. Can you help me look for them? And so, we'll have a team that starts going through looking for specific photos to help them out. Right. Because that's, what we have to do. Yeah. And in this case, they're able to say, oh, here's the 5,000 photos. Here are the 50 that have to do with piping. And they're able to look through the 50, find exactly what they're looking for, and then move on with their day, So, those are the kind of things that some of these smaller law firms that I've been working with just find so amazing and helpful. Other pieces that, just talking about just traditional, like think of old school, review and produce, right? What you're getting. You're getting, 3 gigabytes of data. And I've got to produce all of these. I know they're all relevant. Our client self-collected them. I'm going to go through them very quickly, and I want to produce them. Well, the ease in which they can do that in Reveal is just tremendous. And so, I think a lot of paralegals would attest to, the time they spend in Adobe getting a document production ready, taking all of the emails that they went and grabbed and turning them to PDFs, then Bates labeling. It's an arduous process that could take them hours. That same thing is happening, through us in Reveal in 5-10 minutes. And their day is now being focused on things that are important to their cases, not doing that type of work. So that's another area that, we really focus and try to teach, because they don't realize how easy that is and how effective that can be for their daily work life. So, those are kind of 2 simple areas, but 2 important areas that I see some of the mid-sized firms really starting to take advantage of.
What other things do you see mid-sized firms taking advantage of?
Well, types of cases, any kind of investigation. So let's say they're doing a personal injury, a PI case, right? And there's a fire at an apartment complex, or there's, police interviews, fire investigator interviews, and they're going around, they're interviewing witnesses, and, they're recording all of the all of the witnesses and what they're saying. And so what we're able to help these firms with in that specific instance is we'll take all of those audio files or video and audio files, and we bring them into Reveal, and we do what's called transcription. We run a transcription process on them, which is taking that audio to text. And with that, it's also making that file searchable, right? To the point where you can click on a certain segment of that and go directly to that part in the video. So, we find tremendous success in that area, because, when you're interviewing somebody for, a fire in an apartment complex, and they're doing it for 30 people, and you need to find these 3 stories and you want to compare them, you can do that in Reveal very easily and very quickly. And so that's another area that I think that is really wowing people that I'm working with.
You've touched on this a bit, but I wanted to ask, I know it can be daunting to switch from a platform that you've been using and that you're comfortable with to something that's new and different. How do you help people make that transition?
Well, a lot of people are familiar with, multiple tools, and moving to them, they know the pains involved. So, we migrate cases. So we kind of turnkey the migration of data. If somebody needs to get out of a particular tool for a certain reason on a mid-project, or they just don't want to use that and they want to take advantage of some of these features, we offer, just a great training program. Basically, it's first off, Reveal is pretty intuitive. I would say it's, for us to migrate data into it is very simple. Our team is very, very technically sound, but we're able to get data into the system very easily. And then, training our end clients, our law firm clients, or corporate clients with how to use the system is is a pretty easy process. So we start, making the system, in a very presentable, simple fashion. Not a lot of bells and whistles on it. Looks like a linear review, and then we explain how each of the pieces of the tool work, and then we slowly add in the different pieces of AI or more advanced technology, and show them, hey, look what we found. And they didn't even know they were doing that type of work. For example, like the supervised learning, right? We would talk with them, set up the codes, and then we show, hey, look, here are some other documents like that. So we try to kind of piecemeal it to teams that are not experienced with the tool, or maybe not experienced with any tools. And what I find is that transition, when taken in a kind of a iterative steps, becomes very simple for them to grasp. I mean, I've had people that are uploading data and loading their own collected data into the system within a couple of days of using it, because they're comfortable. They'll have questions, but you walk them through it a couple of times and it's done. Same thing with productions. A lot of times the lawyers and paralegals will say, hey, I want to run a production. I want to do this myself. And so what we do is we kind of take a just-in-time approach to training. When you're ready to do productions, we teach them how to do those productions, and we'll do it with them. And it may take 2 or 3 times, but once they're comfortable with it, then all of a sudden they're just running productions and their days are just getting very smooth. But it's just an evolution of, teaching them one thing at a time, as they start to do it. So we don't want to ever overwhelm a client with, teaching them everything about the system in a sitting, right? And having a 3-hour training program that just, it's hard to grasp all of that, even for the most seasoned users. So we really take a kind of a train as you go approach, and it's been very successful.
One of the challenges that I encountered at both firms I was at, and that I think is ubiquitous, is that, of course, we didn't work on a 9-to-5 schedule. And it always seemed that when I needed the help most from someone, it would be, 3 a.m. on a Friday, between Friday and Saturday, when no one wants to be there to help me. How do you help people in those types of situations?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm very blessed to be working here with K2. Our team in general, just to kind of start in the beginning, everyone from the project managers to the data technicians to our data collections, they've been working for K2 since the 90s, or not 90s, since early mid 2000s, so 10, 12, 13 years, most of the people on the team have been working here. And so they've, run into every type of case, every type of situation. And of course they've run into, the law firm Friday night where, you have plans and things come up. And it's just kind of a way of life. And so, we have a real team approach, right? To where there's a lot of people here that know how to do each of the pieces, and everyone kind of works with one another to handle the situations and it happens every week. It's not once in a while, where there are emergencies that pop up. And so we're just very adept at and have great processes and great people to handle that. And we know what the clients need. If it's something that the client needs, we're there to do it.
Reading not very far between the lines, it sounds to me as if you quite likely have very good client retention rates.
Yes, I would say that is very accurate. So Kirk, our president CEO, has been doing this a long time, and he has clients that he's been working with since the 90s and still using them. So yes, retention is, I think that comes with great customer service, a great team of people, and we just continually push to be better, improve our processes, never rely on just kind of the past, right? We're always looking to improve.
Well, any final thoughts here to share with the audience before we bring this to a close?
No, I just want to say, thank you for having me on. And, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. I've been watching you for a long time, right? Since my days at Lateral Data to today. And so I appreciate everything you do and your knowledge in the industry. And it's been a pleasure to speak with you.
Well, Jason, thank you so much for joining this week. Jason is a senior sales manager at K2 Discovery. I am George Socha. This has been eDiscovery Leaders Live, hosted by ACEDS and sponsored by Reveal. And Jason, once again, thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.